Which is a walk that is a signature fundraising event for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And I'm really happy that you guys invited me out today. I'm glad to be here, and I'm really thrilled to see this many people in the room. So the background of how I got to be where I'm at in front of you. 6 years ago, I knew really nothing about suicide, and I knew a minimal amount about bipolar disorder, which my girlfriend at the time had. 5 years ago, my girlfriend Terry killed herself. She struggled with bipolar disorder for her whole life, and in her words, she felt broken. She felt like she never could find the help that she needed, and she just felt different and less than, and she didn't really know who to talk to except a few of us, and that didn't work for her, clearly. A couple of months after her death, there was a smaller version of this same walk. Every year locally in all of our chapters, we do community walks, which are the same concept, but they're 5K walks that last a couple hours in the morning. And I went to that, and I still don't know why I went, except that it seemed like maybe there was an answer there. And I didn't talk to anybody when I went. I talked to the group of people that I came with, and that was it. But I saw 500 people, half of whom clearly understood where I was, and the other half who really understood where Terry had been. And it resonated with me. And the next year I went back and volunteered at the walk. The following year I helped plan the walk. After that I became a board member for the San Francisco Bay Area, where I've served for the last couple of years. The overnight walk, I'll get into some details about what that is and what it means, but it travels city to city. We do it in one city across the nation every year. So we've done New York, Chicago, Seattle, Boston. The last time it was here in the Bay Area was 2006. So it's really kind of exciting that it's back. We've got a lot of folks here who did it 6 years ago and are excited to be back. We have people coming in from all over the country. And when they needed somebody to do outreach for this, I'm kind of a good fit for that, being a survivor myself. And I've really enjoyed doing it because I get to come out and I get to meet wonderful people like Robin, like all of you guys. And that's sort of how I came to be here. And I'm happy to stick around afterwards. If I don't get to anything that you have questions about, we'll have time for some questions, or maybe what's easier for meeting-wise, I'll hang out afterwards. If anybody wants to come up and ask me one-on-one, that's perfectly fine. So this slideshow, can everybody see that? We try to cover as many questions as we can about the organization, where the money goes, what the walk is, what the weekend looks like, and then the main components of the walk that everybody tends to be most worried about and have the most questions. So what it means to actually do the walk, what it means to train for a walk. This is an almost 18-mile walk. What it means to fundraise for it, because it is a large fundraising walk, and all the tools that we give you for that. And if anybody wants to register anytime between now and tomorrow about this time, get in touch with me and I can register you at a discounted price. The price for students is $35 to begin with, so it's another 30% off that. This slide, the regular price is $50. Students and military are $35. So if you do it within a day or so of today, I can get you in on the promo for these meetings, which is another, it works out to be about $10 off. So here are some of the statistics. Just a sampling. If anybody's interested in more statistics about suicide, you can find them at AFSP.org or theovernight.org. These are all statistics that are compiled by the Centers for Disease Control, which is what everybody uses sort of as a benchmark for statistical data. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among college students. Closer to 37,000 than 36,000 people died by suicide in 2009. These statistics, the most recent statistics are all 2009. They lag a couple of years behind where we're at. More Americans suffer from depression than coronary heart disease, cancer, and AIDS. And in the United States, in 2009, somebody died by suicide every 14.2 minutes. And the best guess is that an attempt is made every minute or more frequently than that. So the reason we put these up here is not to scare anybody, but this is why the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention exists. This is why we have the walk. This is really a national health problem. It's really something that there consistently has not been enough data on. has not been enough reliable information on, and it's something that touches almost all of us, whether we know it or not, or touches somebody that we know. And I'll touch on that again in a minute, which is why I've stayed involved with this long. It's like the likelihood is if you're standing in a group of people, or if you're in a room this size, somebody near you has been affected by suicide and or is suffering from some sort of mental illness. So who is AFSP? This is the Where Your Money Goes slide for the walk and for all of our fundraising. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We get all of our funding through private donations, through fundraising efforts that we make. And we don't provide any direct services. So what that means is that we don't operate crisis lines. We don't run our own support groups. But what we do is, I'll run through the exact, what we do in relation to direct services is point people towards the right help. So while we don't provide the help in all of our local areas, we always have a roster of where the local crisis lines are, how people can get in touch with them. A lot of the board members of our chapters locally across the country are the facilitators for these support groups once people have lost somebody. So while we don't operate them, we're also pretty intimately involved with most of these. The 5 main things that AFSP does is to fund scientific research, which is a big one. Accurate research studies cost a lot of money and take a lot of time. And the studies that we're involved in are everything from studies about medication and how to properly diagnose, or how to get earlier diagnoses, we're involved in a long-term study right now where they're dissecting the brains of those who have died by suicide versus those that haven't, to see if there are structural differences, or to see if there's a way to measure chemical differences so that we can detect things early. Educating the public, we do through, primarily that's geared towards veterans in schools because those are populations where we can make materials that target a certain population, and those 2 populations also are sort of the most at-risk populations. So we provide a video program to both colleges and high schools, and we've come up with an online screening program called the Interactive Screening Program, which is a diagnostic tool where people can get anonymous sort of advice before they get filtered to help. It's being implemented in all the UC campuses starting next year. 2 of them are already live. Ohlone College and a couple of other colleges in the area, and we do what we can to sort of offset the cost with the colleges. It's tricky because it costs money to staff something like that, and we don't have enough money on the local level to just give that to colleges and implement it and pay for the staff position for it. But with all of our programs, we have some sort of a program in place that sort of offsets the cost of everything that we're doing. This isn't a for-profit venture for us, none of the educational programs. The educational programs for professionals are more geared towards medical professionals, and that's back to what I mentioned earlier, that for a long time people kind of haven't been playing out of the same playbook, where everybody's using different information, different criteria, some of the information is incorrect. So a lot of that is just educating mental health professionals, doctors, first responders, to recognize signs and to put into place sort of best practices for preventative measures. Promoting policies and legislation that impact suicide prevention. We don't pay a bunch of lobbyists for this. Our organization is almost entirely volunteer run. So in Northern California, we have 1 employee whose territory is San Luis Obispo to Oregon. The rest are there are 2 different chapters in that. All the board members are volunteers. All the people that plan all the local walks are volunteers. Last year, people met from around the country from all of our chapters, made appointments with their Congress people, went in, sat down face to face, told their stories, told why they were in support of or in opposition to some mental health issues that are going through Congress. And that's the sort of thing. It's really more of a grassroots, having the voice of the people that are involved heard. And we've had a lot of victories in that in recent years. And then providing programs and resources for survivors of suicide loss and people at risk. And that's really everything from making sure that we are fostering support groups in areas that don't have them. Even though we don't run them, we really try to encourage people to have these support groups, which is peer therapy once somebody has lost somebody that they love. Our walks are a form of that. We do an event called National Survivors of Suicide Day every November, which is a worldwide simulcast with speakers. We have 10 sites around the Bay Area, and it goes on pretty heavily across the country and then in several other countries as well. And just finding ways to build community. If you can't guess from the title of the walk, the Out of the Darkness walk, the biggest issue with suicide and with mental illness is that nobody talks about it. Nobody feels comfortable talking about it. Nobody knows what to say after they've lost somebody. It's such a taboo subject that it's a big monster hiding in the closet for everyone. The idea behind the walks, the overnight in particular, is to get a lot of people together to make a visible statement of numbers and to bring it literally out of the darkness and into the light and get everybody talking. Talking about experiencing their own loss, talking about their own struggles, talking about the fact that they knew somebody who, just talking about it. And in a lot of ways, we're sort of at a similar stage to what breast cancer and other cancers were 15, 20 years ago, where it was just something that people were uncomfortable talking about. And it's gradually changing. And I've been pleasantly surprised, particularly over the last few months, that the dialogue on college campuses in particular is so different than it was 2 years ago. We used to hang up a banner and everybody would see the word suicide on the banner and you would watch the color go out of their face and they'd turn around and walk the other way. And what I've been getting, particularly in the last 6 months, is the exact opposite reaction to that, which is really encouraging to me. So that's enough of the technical part of it. And if anybody has questions about AFSP or about what we do locally or what we can do locally, whether it's here or on other campuses or anything like that, I'm happy to talk about it afterwards. That's kind of a high-level view of the organization and why we raise money and where the money goes. So the Out of the Darkness overnight walk is why some of you at least came today. This is our signature event. It's the only national event that we do every year. We do a couple of others that sort of filter through a local level and happen at the same time. This is the only thing that we do one place, one time a year. People come in from all over the country for it. It is a roughly 18-mile walk through San Francisco this time that starts at about dusk on the 9th and it ends at sunrise on the 10th. Cool. So we walk all through. That's a good reaction. So that's back to that idea. It's a symbolic gathering of people. We're going to have a few thousand walkers. We're going to have about 1,000 or so volunteers and crew, and I'll explain the difference between those two. But we're going to have a few thousand people, most of whom who have been touched somehow by suicide or mental illness, all together making a statement, literally with their feet, just taking steps. And the walk's sort of broken into a couple pieces. There's nothing real rocket science about the walk. We have an opening ceremony. We're going to, just logistically speaking, if anybody's thinking about walking, we're trying to open the registration area much earlier than we have in the past so that we don't get any kind of a logjam. And anytime you have an event where several thousand people show up, you wind up with some folks who get stuck and have to wait an hour and a half in line. So we're opening our registration about 6 hours before the ceremony starts. It's at Fort Mason in San Francisco, so it's at the corner of Bay and Laguna. We've got this whole lawn area, beautiful view of the bridge and Alcatraz. And people can check in if they want to early and get the paperwork out of the way and then go hang out there. The opening ceremony will have a couple of speakers who are survivors, either of their own battles with mental illness or people who have lost somebody that they love. And we'll have a couple of people speak briefly from AFSP. We do some group stretching and then everybody goes. The ceremonies, both opening and closing, are pretty basic. The real event is the walk portion of it. Not an exact map of the route. It's a vaguely circular route, so we start and end in the same place. The logistics folks have done a wonderful job of making sure that there are fewer hills than there could be. It's San Francisco, so there are hills. We have everybody calling us from Iowa asking if there are no hills anywhere on the route. The majority of the people that come out to do our walks are not triathletes, they're not marathon runners, they're not people who generally get out and walk 20 miles at once just for fun. So this isn't set up to be an athletic event. It's still 20 miles, it's still a long walk, and there are still some training ideas that I'll get to in a couple of slides, but it's not meant to wipe you out doing the walk. We try to make it as comfortable as possible, and with all of that in mind, our primary concern when we lay out the route is safety and comfort. So we're not going up California Street, we're not doing anything like that. There are hills, but after the hills are a rest area. I think for every section that there is a hill. The route is clearly marked, and we have tons and tons and tons of our volunteer staff, which is our crew. We've got people everywhere. We have people on motorcycles, people on bicycles, people in vans, people on cars, people on foot. We have somebody on a bike that follows the last walker, whoever that might be, so that the last walker is never the last person. Nobody will find themselves at 3 o'clock in the morning feeling like they're not on the route, or that they're all alone, or it's just not set up that way. The course doesn't ever close. The course technically closes when the last walker comes across. And then spread out throughout, about every 3 or 4 miles, we have some kind of a stop. We've got a quick stop, which is just what it sounds like. It's a quick place to use the bathroom, refill a water bottle, change your socks. We have rest stops, which are a little bit more like a small encampment, where there'll also be snacks and the water bottles and the porta potties. We have porta potties everywhere. And then about halfway, we actually stop. There's an encampment where we have a meal. I don't know if we're doing a hot food or sandwiches, but it's midnight snack. It's where everybody can stop, chill out for a little bit, wait for their friends to catch up, have a meal, recharge a little bit for the last half of the walk. And then throughout that neat little van picture we have sweep vans running around. And sweep vans, in addition to carrying some of the supplies like the Gatorade and water to all the stops, they're really there so that if anybody needs a ride for any reason, they can have one. So if somebody gets tired and they want to bump up to the next rest stop to wait for their friends, they can hitch a ride with one of the sweep vans. If somebody gets hurt, the sweep vans have medical people in them. If somebody just wants to quit halfway through, which doesn't happen that often, but does happen, sweep vans pick them up and take them back to the ceremony site. This isn't set up to be, an athletic event where you absolutely have to finish and you have to finish in record time. It's really about being comfortable. So we do have a lot of folks who were, somewhere in the halfway range. They're just starting to get tired and their friends are a little bit quicker than they are, so they get bumped up to the next rest stop where they can hang out and wait for their friends to catch up, and then they can all go again. Medical personnel we have all over the place for much the same reason. So everything from a blister to a heart attack, we've got folks there who are qualified to handle it. And we generally have too much of all sorts of support so that we don't run into problems. And then the closing ceremony, the reverse of the opening ceremony. Everybody will come back in, and if you haven't seen any of our marketing materials, if you haven't seen our website, on the front page, we've got a video that's actually a compilation of the last several years of overnight walks, and they've done a really excellent job of capturing sort of what the mood is of the walks. But all walkers who check in, all volunteers and crew are also welcome to. We do these luminary bags, and they come plain. And the walkers get these in their registration packets, and they can personalize them. Most people have a message to somebody that they've lost, a message to their own illness, a joke about something. Really whatever. It's sort of a memorial device. These get dropped off before the walkers leave. And we have a crew of volunteers that go out and set all these up with tea lights in them. So that the last half mile or quarter mile coming in, just before sunrise, is all lit with these. Which sounds like kind of a small thing and a neat idea, but I challenge anybody to walk by these without getting a little choked up. It's an entirely different story to walk by a few thousand of these and just realize how many lives are affected, how many people it touches. And that marks the beginning of closing ceremony, where we'll have another couple of speakers and another couple of speakers from AFSP. Another sort of minor device that we do are just beads, colored beads, just like Mardi Gras beads. And different colors signify different things. So a red set of beads is somebody that's lost a spouse or a partner. A green set of beads is somebody that struggled themselves. And they're by no means mandatory, but what that did for me the first walk that I went, and I've heard this repeated many times over since then, is it really kind of gives everybody a sense of looking out of how many people are just like them. And of how many people are just like maybe the person they lost. And so we've got a couple of small things like that. The event really is a memorial for a lot of us, but I can't stress this enough, it's not a tearjerker kind of event. I wouldn't have kept coming back if I didn't feel something other than just sorrow. It's not a funeral event at all. It's really a feeling of hope, hope for the future, hope that we can change something, hope that we can help somebody else. And my favorite part of all of them is there has yet to be a walk that I've been to that I didn't meet somebody who was their first time there wearing these green beads that was very shy and withdrawn until about halfway through the walk, and they start talking to people. And I always see that person the following year. And they seem like they're doing a little bit better. And that experience has yet to not happen to me year after year. Which tells me that we're touching people, even if the studies and everything haven't caught up yet. Even if the laws that we'd like to change haven't been changed yet. I know firsthand from the people that I keep meeting that at least we're doing some good in that sense. That's what these events are about. There are tears, but it's really kind of a healing, good kind of a tear. There are also people sharing stories about the people that they lost, often for the first time. Often it's people who have really just never been in an environment where they felt safe talking about their lost person. And now they're telling a stranger, and the stranger's giving them a hug when they need it. And there's nothing that I can say that can really impart the vibe and the feeling of the event. Like I said, the video does a little better job of capturing that than I'm doing, I think. But they're really powerful events, and they're fun events. And that's why we have people come back from all around the country for them. So that's sort of the order of events in a nutshell for the walk itself. And then the next few slides will kind of be usually what we get the biggest questions about. And the first question that we get the most questions about is the fundraising aspect of the walk. Has anybody fundraised for any like large-scale walk, like the 3-day walks or anything like that? Did it go reasonably okay, or was it
went
painful?
great.
Fairly easy?
I mean, it was work, but I always fundraise when I needed to fundraise.
It was a long time ago with the Jerry Lewis walk.
Uh-huh.
Remember we did that, we gathered $1,500 once and just donated it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Did it go
It went
relatively
really
okay?
well.
Yeah.
Went really well, we enjoyed it. But a group of us, a whole group of us went to be up there. Not San Francisco and walk. Yeah.
And then, is everybody else relatively freaked out if I say that students need to raise $700 for the walk? Yeah, no. I was freaked out. So, a couple of notes, because this is really our biggest question, right, is the money. And on the one hand, I'm telling you that everything we do is really designed just to reach out and touch people and to help people, and it is. This is the one event that we do every year where there's a mandatory fundraising requirement. Part of that is we do this in one city. It's a nationwide event, so there's a whole lot more logistically involved in it. And it actually costs, this is one event that actually costs us some money to put on, which we obviously need to recover. But also, this is the one opportunity we have for a national fundraising event. So this single walk every year generates almost 20% of our annual fundraising. The other piece to that puzzle is we've tried to find something where the fundraising goal is something that consistently better than 90% of our walkers tell us was absolutely no problem to reach. No matter how much they're freaking out about it leading into it, when we talk to everybody afterwards, everybody kind of laughs and tells us that $1,000 or $700 for students was totally achievable, and was achievable in pretty short order once they started trying. That's usually the kind of the caveat. We get a lot of people that call us and say that they're stuck, and we kind of start throwing out tips, and then it's always sort of the same conversation, and then everybody kind of laughs, and they go, okay, I've sent out a couple of emails. And we help, and I'll show you some of the tools that we give for that. So I've also got a couple of ways to participate in the walk that have nothing to do with fundraising. And one of them has a nominal registration fee, and the other one is completely free. And those are the two different volunteer options. So the event is still designed, my personal belief, and I know it's that of the executive director of the foundation, I don't want anybody who wants any part of it to feel like they can't do it because of the fundraising aspect. This is a walk that we use to generate money, and we make no bones about that. But if you want to participate and you can't walk 18 miles, you want to participate, you can't be there all night, you want to participate and you don't want to do the fundraising, we have ways around that. So, the tools that we give everybody, this looks like a short list that kind of means nothing, but they're actually pretty substantial. The first is a website. That's your personal webpage that's attached to our webpage. And that creates an easy space for you to kind of personalize it, put up your own story, your own picture of somebody you lost or whatever that connects to it. And it allows you to personalize a link that you can then send out on Facebook and email or whatever. It makes it very easy for people to get to your page. There's a button for them to click to donate. We handle all the credit cards. We handle everything else on the back end. There's also a way to do it offline, but usually through these links, people get about 85% of their donations. We've got two gentlemen that are in New York. one of which Robin's met, who are wonderful human beings, and their only job is to make sure that walkers are taken care of. Everything from I forgot my password and I can't log into my page, to I got to $300 in my fundraising and I'm stuck, I don't know what to do, to I've never walked 18 miles and I'm walking 2 miles a day and I don't feel like that's enough. They're highly accessible by both phone and email. They're super personable guys, and their only job is really just to field questions from walkers. So once you, if and when you register, you wind up getting your own personal walker coach that you can call all the time. There's a 3-hour time difference there on the East Coast. But it's very helpful because everybody's in a slightly different situation in their training and their fundraising and whatever. We give you templates for emails, for press releases, for all kinds of things that you're welcome to use or customize or not use at all and write your own. But we've set everything up so that it can be pretty plug and play. And then the registration package gives you things like a way to take checks for donations or cash, a t-shirt, which is sort of advertising if you're doing any sort of an in-person fundraising thing, like a night at a restaurant where you get part of the take for a couple of hours, and a couple of other things. So this is split into two, but this is an example of what the web pages look like. So it really is your own page. As long as you're not posting something that you should know better than to post, kind of. Like, we have really loose guidelines. If you're posting something that's blatantly offensive, then we may have to do something. Within reason, these pages belong to our walkers, and crew members also get this page. There are team pages, which are sort of just a layer ahead of this. So you can have a team of friends. You could have a team for this campus if you wanted to, or for AGS. And on that team page, you can put why the team is participating, and everybody will be a link on that page to their own personal page, which is a great fundraising tool also, because in a group of any 10 people, you tend to have 1 or 2 people who are rock stars and get to their fundraising goal in like 30 seconds. And then you get most of us, and then you get a couple people who get stuck and need a little nudge and a little help towards the end. We frequently have teams where those couple of people who just charge and get everything change the front of their page and say, instead of donating to me, donate to Ryan. Ryan needs another couple hundred to finish. That's a really common story for us. The page lets you put your own story, put your own picture, and it's got a thermometer that makes a very annoying noise every time you log in as it fills up. But it's really a space to kind of make it your own. And we've got, everybody has a different level of comfort in sharing why they're attached to this walk. And in broadcasting that, obviously I'm probably a little bit more comfortable. I'm standing in front of y'all telling you this. But we've got people who don't necessarily want to share with the world the specifics of why they're involved. So they share a vague bit about that and then make it about their training, because it's not every day that most of us walk 20 miles in the middle of the night. But some kind of it allows a personal hook where people can be invested in supporting you in doing this, rather than just giving you money for something that you think is a good cause. All of this in the fundraising thing serves 2 purposes for us. So the one purpose is the fundraising. Sort of the more important purpose is to get people talking. Every time our video is shared on Facebook, somebody who maybe didn't feel comfortable about talking about it before talks to somebody else about it. In the last 4 months, while I've been running around doing this, I've had 3 separate friends, each of whom I've known longer than 15 years. And somehow we've never talked about suicide, and somehow I didn't know that 2 of them lost somebody, and somehow I didn't know that the other one has been on medication since she was 12. And for whatever reason, that sort of constant sharing eventually opens the door and lets people talk about it, often never really had the opportunity to talk about it. That's not that, it's a paper form for taking checks. We make any kind of donation thing pretty simple. So the last thing to make the money part of it less scary. Instead of thinking of it as $700, think of it like $100 from 7 people, or $1 from 700 people, or any sort of a smaller number. And that's usually the first thing that we tell everybody. Most of us are not professional fundraisers, and that's why that dollar amount is scary. That's why it's scary within like a 5-week period from now. Most of the people who start fundraising, once they start in earnest, reach their goal generally in about 2 weeks. Sometimes a little bit lower than that, sometimes a little bit longer than that. But it generally doesn't take 4 months worth of work. And we can come up with, help you with ideas that have worked for people in the past, all sorts of ways that teams can do it together or individuals can do it or anything like that to kind of help make it easier. But the biggest thing is always talk about it. If you can get a group of people to do something and pool the money and break it up, that's an easy way. These are all just kind of examples, but easier ways to split this down so that it's not a frightening goal and that the fundraising can be sort of part of the journey of doing the walk, rather than just the 2 days of the walk. So the second thing that we hear most is about, I gotta walk 18 miles in the middle of the night. And again, it's not set up to be anything like a marathon at all. But that being said, if you're not used to walking long distances, these are just kind of best practice things for walking. You know, stretch before and after you walk. Walk often, drink water often, drink water when you're thinking about walking. And shoes, it sounds like a silly one, but don't buy shoes 2 days before a walk like this. Even if you're volunteering, don't buy shoes on the 6th and come to the walk on the 9th because you will regret it, I promise. And then the training portion of it, it's not like you're training for a long distance endurance run. So we can help with training plans that work for most people and you can tweak it so it'll work for yourself. One of the things we started doing was an Eat Training newsletter, which does two things. There's nothing extreme in the training, but it allows you just to have a plan and you don't have to come up with a plan. The coaches put them together and they email them out weekly. And also it serves as a reminder. Most of us, like me, intend to do things tomorrow and I never do. But something showing up and reminding you to do it might trigger that. And the other thing that we have is training walks all over the Bay Area, all over the country. And that's just other people that are walking. And the only thing, if there's not a training walk in a specific area, the only thing we need to start one is somebody to promise to be in a certain place at a certain time. We'll plan the route, we'll give you a map for it, we'll tell you who else is coming. All we need to post it on the website is just a guarantee that someone will be there. On the 5th of May, you guys have something going on though, right?
We don't know yet.
You don't know yet? On the 5th, if you don't have something going on here, we have training walks all over the country on that day. And we've got 4, I think, in the Bay Area. I've got San Jose, San Francisco. There's one over here somewhere. I don't remember exactly where. I can get anybody who's interested, I can get you the information. And all of those are between, say, 10 and 30 people that are going to show up. But there are other people that are training for the same reason on the same timeline. It's a good way to meet people. And so this I kind of got ahead of myself and covered a little bit early. But sort of the underlying reason for everything that AFSP does, whether it's the Survivors Conference Day that we do in November or any of our community walks, and particularly the overnight, is this sense of community. For anybody that feels remotely touched or affected by mental illness or suicide, it often helps to not feel like you're alone and to not feel like you're the only one in that position. It also does a lot for some of us to take a look around and see 1,000 other people that are willing to spend the time to do it. That sort of sense of community. Everything we do, from posting and spreading things on Facebook to the training walks to everything else, is really about that connection and about people meeting one another and being able to share with one another. And that always sounds like sort of a small thing, but that's a huge part of what this organization has always been about, and for the past 25 years, why we've grown the way that we've grown. So the other 2 ways that you can participate are in either one of the volunteer capacities. So as big as this event is, there are 6 of us on staff for the whole event. So we have 3 of us in New York and 3 of us here. We'll all be here come event time. But the volunteers are absolutely critical. The reason that we run the event this way, it's the way that we run every sort of AFSP event. 85.5 cents on every dollar we raise goes towards mission activities. It doesn't go to staffing, it doesn't go to advertising, it doesn't go to lobbyists, it doesn't go to administrative costs, it just doesn't go to that sort of thing. So we tend to run really, really lean. And we have crew and volunteers are the 2 other ways to participate. Crew members are like our super volunteers. They're basically event staff. So they have to commit to being there for the duration of the event, which winds up being about 20 hours. They get the same webpage that the walkers get. They don't have to fundraise. But if they want to, they're absolutely welcome to. We often have teams of 10 people where 3 of those people are crew. It's a way for the volunteers to be a part of a team on the web, sort of, on the web pages. And they can fundraise and pool things collectively together, or the crew will raise money to get walkers. They get the same t-shirts, the same meals as the walkers. They also get a crew t-shirt. There is a registration fee for students, that's $35. The only reason that fee exists is that it costs us money to have the crew there. It costs us money for the couple t-shirts and for the meal. It's just to offset the cost of having the folks there. And our insurance is set up differently for the crew or the folks that also can, or some of them will be driving the box trucks to move equipment around. They're more like event staff, so they're a little different category on everything on our end. The volunteers is a little bit more freeform, and it's broken up on purpose because one of the objections we get a lot also is that people really want to participate, but they can't commit to the whole duration of the event for a variety of reasons. So the volunteers we're going to run in 4 or 5 hour shifts, and we'll start at about 8 o'clock in the morning on the 9th, and then run all the way until we're finished, which will probably be around 8 or 9 o'clock on the 10th. And volunteers are welcome to come and do one shift for 4 or 5 hours at any section that suits them, or work all the shifts consecutively and work the whole event. I've got lots of folks that are coming in from out of town that just don't want to do the crew duties. They want to be at the ceremony site, which is where most of the volunteers are going to be. So they're going to do registration, and we'll move them to something else in the middle, and then we'll move them to breakfast in the morning. There's no registration fee, no fundraising commitment at all for volunteers. You do get a volunteer t-shirt, and a couple of the volunteer shifts will get fed and a couple won't. There'll be snacks around always, and water and that kind of thing. But there isn't an organized meal per se for volunteers. There will be something in the middle of the night that won't be the same as the midnight snack because we're geographically separated from where that is. And the volunteers doing breakfast are welcome to have breakfast. None of these groups are really excluded from one another. It's just the roles are slightly different. And we're going to have roughly 200 of each of those groups. 200 volunteers, 200 crew people. So the event, I can't stress that enough. This isn't like a feel-good, want to pat everybody on the back and say volunteers are really important to us. Volunteers are absolutely really important to us. I got into this group as a volunteer. I'm absolutely proud to be in charge of the volunteers this year. I know the crew coordinator has exactly the same story as mine. And both of us stress over and over again to everybody that if you're volunteering, it will be a different sort of sense of the event than just walking the event. But you'll absolutely feel a part of the event, you'll absolutely feel included in the event, and you'll absolutely get to benefit from the whole sense of community that comes with the event. So I think the people that do the walk over and over again, if they have to rank it between walker and crew. A lot of them flip-flop back and forth. They'll follow it year after year, and they'll walk one year and crew the next. The volunteers, I think we tend to get more people who it's either their first time or who could only do a shorter block of time. The other two give you sort of a little bit more immersive experience in the whole thing, if that's clear enough. But I think we still get people from all around to do all of the above. Like I say, I've got a bunch of folks that are flying all the way from Iowa and putting themselves up in a hotel for 4 days so they can volunteer, which should tell you something about the draw of this event. That's it in a nutshell. I don't know if you guys want to do questions
Yeah.
Yeah.
this way
Can I say
first.
something?
Yeah.
So, thank you so much, Ryan, and we're going to continue, but I know that, if you don't mind, Robin here is going to be doing the 18-mile walk, and so part of this, we wanted to do this presentation for a variety of reasons, and I'll let Robin share that if you want to share that. But the way I envisioned it is recruiting some people, if you wanted to do this walk, if you're passionate about this and believe in this, then absolutely participate in this. Ryan's going to tell you how to do it easily, do that 18-mile walk. If you don't feel like you could do the 18-mile walk, then I just learned there's crew, and then there's also the volunteer. The way I pictured it, and I didn't know I was going to have so many Health and Human Services folks here, so thank you so much for being here. I have to thank Aminta for that. But maybe if we came together like AGS and Health and Human Services and we manned a water stop, or that we came together and we did something as a group to, volunteer a certain amount of hours. unfortunately, I'm gonna be in El Salvador during the time, and I really, I am passionate about this, and I wish I could participate, but I'm gonna be out of the country. But maybe if we had like a Minta or other AGS advisor who could kind of spearhead that, I think if we got like, maybe we could do like a sign-in sheet for folks who would be interested in doing like a group volunteer with Health and Human Services and AGS. Or there's also individual, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking about, so I wanted to put that out there.
Can I add on to what she said? Two things that I should have mentioned. So one of the things that we did talk about early on was a cheering section. One of the things that we're having volunteers doing, and it's perfect for groups, spread out along the route, particularly after like 3-4 miles in, it starts to get really dispersed. And particularly later in the night, we want to make sure that everybody's keeping their energy up and they're still excited about doing it 15 miles in. So we're putting groups of people, whether it's, we've got a couple of sports teams that are going to come out and do it, a couple of campus groups from campuses around the area. It's a perfect way for like a group of 10 or 15 people. And depending on where these are actually located, we're still ironing out with the city where we're permitted, but you may be able to do a banner. Some of them you'll be able to make more noise than others. But it's a good way for a group of people to go and be together with their friends and have a good time. And then the second thing that I should have mentioned also, if anybody's interested in walking, and if you're interested in doing that as a group, but the fundraising is sort of the sticky part of that, we have a lot of folks that do, as a group, they'll do collective fundraisers, and then when they hit a certain amount, so you need to have one person registered so that you have a fundraising page for people to donate to, and you'd already have that with yours. But we get a lot of people that, as a group, fundraise, and when they get $700, they have a walker. When they get $1,400, they elect another walker. When they get to $2,100, they elect another walker. And then everybody else who has fundraised either is crew or volunteers afterwards, and they can be there to support the folks that are walking. And it becomes a group effort. You can label it as a group team, a group page, campus, whatever it is that you want to. But then it's kind of an identity-based thing.
I want to piggyback off what Marissa was saying. I do thank HHS for coming. Being in the helping field, as we all know, right? Hello? Are you there? Okay. This is a good place to be able to network, to get information that you may not get here. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. And to get to understand a lot about the behaviors, the signs of what you're not aware of. Because this is happening, as our guest speaker shared, it's happening 14.2, what is it, seconds?
14.2 minutes.
Yeah. And it could be the person sitting right next to you. This is a good way to learn strategies. You're going to learn volunteering, fundraising, everything. And the most important thing is that you're going to get to learn about what happens when people come into that state of mind. And that's what we're all about. We're Health and Human Services, and we are in the helping field. And every aspect of helping includes the mental health, as we all know. But we learn all of this through our courses. This is very important. It's a good way to open up avenues and open up doors so that you can learn more about this disease. Okay? Yep. Oh my goodness. I thought I was being serious and they clapping. Okay, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions about any of the sort of main groups out of those? No? None? Then I did an excellent job.
Yes, you did.